Hello, chess fans. After a long time, I have a game in English, and it was a wonderful game between Magnus Carlsen and Vladimir Fedoseev. It's the second game in the matchup for the third place on the World Cup. Already the first game was fantastic from Magnus with black, but the second was maybe even better. Fedoseev needed to win. Maybe that helps Magnus a little bit with that win. But let's see. It was amazing Caro-Kann, where Magnus set with e5 the blocked structure, and with c4 tended to open up the c file at least for him. It's not that often to be seen on the highest level, but it's good chance for White to achieve an advantage simply, where e6 is the response and knight c3 logically. Bishop b4, everything is normal from that point. Maybe Carlsen now find it somehow novelty with taking on d5 the pawn. Seems to be better to play queen b3, more logical maybe, getting up the bishop, and there is a pawn hanging on b7. But yeah, after queen b3, black has a response with a5. And maybe that is enough for black to achieve an equal position. So, from that reason, maybe also white placed c takes d5, and now black responded with queen takes d5. Maybe a little bit surprising, but black doesn't care about putting the pawn on d5, because on the d5 maybe he wanted to put the knight logically in this way. Now Magnus found the wonderful move with the knight e2. That's not covering the knight. That's not the primary reason to move the knight on e2, not to f3. As you can see, knight f3 is also possible, holding the pawn on d4 for some instance, and maybe securing the knight for some traveling upstairs. But it's not that simple to build some activity across the g5, queen h5, and something like that seems to be too optimistic. And the knight cross e2 can travel more simple, cross f4, attacking the queen at least, to h5, probably also a square, and cross the g3, attacking the bishop, and also making squares to e4, d6, maybe. So knight e4, knight e2, it's a great move. There is a question for Vladimir, why he leave the queen to d8. If I shall leave the queen, I will maybe pick the a5 square, because after a3 I'm not needed for any move, because the bishop is not attacked while the rook is standing on a1. There is a little pin. So queen a5 seems to me more flex. But yeah, he traveled to d8, and after a3 set up the bishop to a5. Maybe wanted to set him on b6, attacking the d4. That's the only weakness in White's camp, so that might be the target. Magnus doesn't care at all. Knight g3, and now flexibly developing the pieces. Bishop c4. He is not interested in walking the bishop on d3 to trade the bishop for bishop. The light square's bishop would be maybe the gun after some exchanges on the f5, after some trades. He will set the diagonal, and he will kill the king for maybe, who knows. Bishop g6 and h4, dominating on the king side, making some space, and wonderful queen g4. Why not? Attacking the g7, castling impossible because of the pin. Bishop takes h6 would be easy, so castling is impossible. Rook g8. Wow, rook g8, covering the pawn from behind, never castling. Oh, that's also a little bit bad. there is a finest trick for black. Bishop f5. Letting him take on g7. There is the rook h7. Let's see. And after queen f6, yeah, I will take simply with the queen on d4. Bishop under attack. Knight under attack, and white is demolished in a few moves. So that's impossible. There is a last trick to save the position after knight takes f5, knight takes g7, but it's not enough material. But yeah, there is a simple solution of this situation, simply taking on f5, and after knight takes, bishop develops to e3, d4 is undercover, active queen, bishop pair on board. Black might be never interested in taking here because it gives the opportunity for white to attack along the f-file. So yeah, that should be fine for white, at least a little better. And yeah, that's that's fine for Magnus, because if he is a little better, you can bet on his win. So yeah, black made a mistake here, clearly mistake. King f8. That's not clever solution, because it is the rook on h8 simply devastating. There is never enough time for somehow developing the rook, some kind of way opening the g file. That's maybe too optimistic for black. So the rook is simply leaving in the corner for a whole game, and against Magnus you cannot play with the rook in the corner for a whole game. And Magnus reacted logically with castling. Why not? Knight d7, finishing the development. And now Magnus tried to find out the activity. d6 is the finest square for knight, isn't it? Bishop c7, logically blocking. Black will be really fine if white moves the knight to d6. There will be a weakness on d6 after the trade. So bishop a2. There is no hurry in need, because white's pieces will take squares, and then the final countdown will start. Knight f5, logically trading the operations, while black is not having too many squares, so all the trades of pieces would help a little bit. Queen f3 and queen e7. Good. That seems to be good. Knight g3, operating against the bishop logically. Bishop h7 might be the only solution here, but the machine is speaking about g6 here as the best move, but it's not so human. Maybe it could help a little bit more the rook's development, but it will cost probably at least a pawn in on the h6 square in some kind of operations. So g6, I don't like this move personally. So bishop h7, why not? Queen g4 and c5. Logical solution for black. He definitely wants to hurt somehow the central squat, the block, while then could be somehow the possibility of doing f6, king f7 or something like that to move the rook somehow in the game. That is the mission for black. But bishop d2, logically finishing the development, and the pawn is untouchable, while bishop b4 is pinning the queen. Rook d8, yeah, trying to attack the pawn, why not? And f4 logically started, yeah, when the finish of development is set, then let's go and crush him simply, very simply. Black was logically trying to better the knight somehow, and he is moving the knight to d5, but Magnus doesn't care about this fork, simply doesn't care, and move forward with f5. Vladimir sets the fork, and after queen f3 realizes that simply this is impossible, because of this is his only active piece, so he might at least liquidate the immediate danger on f5, and he tried. There is a little trade, and now Magnus logically continued with d5. Pawn is untouchable while the bishop is standing on f5. d6 is a big threat, so black needs to leave with the bishop, and he chose the b6. Probably the hope was to play c4, and at least the only bishop can get the game, but he cannot. Bishop c4, blocking all the activity of black. And again, this is practically impossible. Yeah, not so impossible. This is well playable to take on d5, but I will take first, and if you take me also, e6 will finish the game practically. While the light squares, there is f6 the only move, and the light squares would be crushing. After queen g6, the tempting sacrifice on f6 will come, and if you compare the strength of the bishops, that will be easy solution, who is better. So yeah, practically impossible to take on d5, so king g8, getting out of this, yeah, this possible pin. And now Magnus played his, yeah, somehow the grandmaster's move, probably, because if you set the pawn to d6, you will have all the endgames will be winning, and all the middle games will be trouble for the opposite side. And if you, as you can see, there is the only active piece in the black's black squad, while we have everything active. So d6 logically, but maybe there was a little better to let the tension at least a few moves and continue maybe queen e2. Queen e2, queen g5, and then sacrificing on f5, where he might take with, and now d6 has more power because it's opening the bishop's activity, and f5 will be taken in a few moves after rook f1 and queen d3 or something like that. And after that, f7 will be the pawn to take, and these two will come together to the queen. So yeah, d6, grandmaster's move. Let's go, Magnus. d6, you are a grandmaster, so yeah, okay. Queen h4, long moves with the queen. Always be ready, always be prepared, even in such a situation which is logically winning. So b3, covering the bishop in normal way. Maybe a little faster was queen e2, because it is really tempting to take on f5 and open the bishop against the king. And he had such a plan, Magnus, so maybe queen e2 was a move faster, but to be honest, I can't see any plan for black to devastate the plan. Rook d7, queen e2, and now taking on f5. There could be the endgame after taking on e2, but it would be probably the same situation here. After take on e2, I will simply retake, and after the take here, bishop b5, rook has to move out, and bishop c4, I will go the rook and take everything, and these two, the pair, will come into the promotion. Look at this bishop. That's simply amazing how the pieces activity is. And yeah, if we are in the comparison, this is the rook for, yeah, worth a shot. Okay, so he realizes to take on f5 better. Rook f1 and queen g5 and bishop d2, hunting the queen somehow, and the queen walks back because she never interested to be hunted, but it gives another piece activity, queen g4, and tempting sacrifice on f7 is prepared, and it's coming. Who knows why Magnus didn't take with the bishop, because it was maybe more simple, because then after king f8 I'm taking simply the rook. Very simple solution, but Magnus take with the queen. Maybe maybe it was something for psychological grounds, because now he repeated the moves for some reason. Repeated, but yeah, now he could have a draw which can settle his match win. But there is very simple move e6, which is leading into the win. Materially speaking, black is much better, but he is under the huge threats. The rook is simply fallen, and yeah, the truth is that the 2 pawns on the 6th rank are worth a rook. So yeah, if you add the rook in the corner, still waiting for something, who knows, maybe for a train. Uh, maybe for a train which will go over her. But yeah, queen f6 is the only move here, because that's impossible due to the checkmate. And yeah, there is then only move, queen f6, but it goes only into the wonderful endgame. After taking on d7 and the exchange of queens, look at the king. He has no squares, and if the king cannot move, then the rook is also desperate for any movement, and the 2 bishops are dominating. Bishop d8 walks back, bishop e6, and h5, the plan, h5, h4, and moving the rook in the game is really desperate, but he tried, and bishop g4, logically letting the rook only waiting for, yeah, for what's happening. Maybe rook h6 here is again somehow proof, but yeah, I can simply take, and now after the king's walk, I will walk the king to c8 probably without any danger, and then the bishop must walk back, because these squares are untouchable for the black's king, and that is a plan which might be easily winning. So b5, the action on the side, but yeah, I have a simple plan. Moving the king to c8 and win. And yeah, black didn't wait for that and resigned. Wonderful game, and wonderful final stage, wonderful final position, which shows that the king f8 maybe was the definite mistake, and then it was only fight for who knows what. So thank you for watching, and have a nice time. Bye.